Welcome to the Lynn Miller Room. In this edition of the Eagle Sports Coaches Show, we'll start off the hour talking softball with head coach David Williams of Morehead State University. And, Coach, less than a month away, and it's getting ready to be softball time again at Morehead State.
It is. It's gearing up. We're got practice underway. We're really excited to get going.
Tell us a little bit about having been back but a couple of weeks of school. What's been the plan since the students returned to class?
Well, we've started practice. We've gotten about 10 practices in so far. Just trying to get the rust knocked off, if you will, and get things going. We've got a good idea of our team concepts and everything from that standpoint. It's just really getting in a rhythm, hopefully starting to see some live pitching and really getting comfortable, get our timing down, and really just kind of getting a groove.
Last time we talked, it was right before the end of the semester, and the fact that young ladies had the fall practice, had some games, working on their grades before the break. They come back in pretty good shape for you?
Yeah. I'm actually really pleased with the way the team's come back so far. I feel like we're ahead of where we were at this point last year. I feel like we're able to do a lot more, and hopefully the fact that we are a little bit more ahead, we can get some more live situations in, which will better prepare us for the start of the season.
Last year, this time, you were hitting the ground running. I mean, getting hired August, I think, of last year and get right into fall ball. It had to be a blur last year.
It was. Everything kind of ran together. I actually made a comment towards the end of last year. I never really felt like I settled in until about April. This year it's been a lot different. We've been able to do a lot more things with the team as a whole. We've been able to kind of do a lot more things around the office, and we're really caught up, and we're kind of getting ahead of schedule now, which is a great thing.
Yeah, you have to work towards the future. Even as we talked about, you already signed some players and looking towards the future for Morehead State in your softball program.
Yeah, we're working hard on trying to build the next couple of recruiting classes and make sure that we establish a good foundation.
Anytime you get to start a program again, you come in here and we've had a little success in the recent past, but not a lot of success overall in the softball program. Breaking that barrier down to where the kids come back and they know you're going to play a tough schedule and they know what you expect of them is very important when you're trying to build a program.
I believe so. I know that we've approached things quite differently this year, and I think our players have approached things quite differently. Obviously, the returners, they've been with me for a year now, and the new players, they don't know any different. Yeah. So we've definitely approached things a lot different, and I think the mentality going forward and the approach going forward is going to be significantly different.
And your staff, I think someone had been with you before, either played for you or, and that has to help because as an assistant coach, sometimes you're the assistant coach, the buffer between the head coach and the players. Sometimes players may get mad. Sometimes the head coach may get mad.
Right.
But it's always good to have somebody that knows you very well.
Yeah, no, I think Natalie Haycock's been a great addition to our staff this year. She played for me at my last school, and she just is that liaison. She's done a really good job. She can relate to what it's like to be a player for me, and now she's on the other end of it as a coach. So she can kind of help, like you said, buffer some of that between the player and the coach.
Let's talk about the players before we get into the schedule in the Ohio Valley Conference. What does the outfield look like this year for Morehead State?
Well, it's very senior-based. We have 4 seniors that play outfield, so I would say at a majority of times you're probably going to see a mostly senior outfield. We do have a couple freshmen out there that have worked their way, kind of into things right now. They're learning a little bit, but they're developing every day. And we have one sophomore out there that actually redshirted last year, so technically she's a freshman as well. So, when you look at the outfield, it's primarily going to be probably senior-based. A lot of experience out there, which is a really good thing. So we're hoping to rely on that, and hopefully their experience will carry over and really help us with our outfield play.
As you mentioned, I think the last time we were talking here, the fact that you recruited the outfield for next year, because you're losing so much. But as you said, that's a great part. If you have the seniors out there that's been through the wars, that takes a little bit of the worry off, that you don't have to worry as much about your outfield play.
Yeah, the great thing about it is they're going to have the experience. So they're going to be battle tested. They're going to understand in game situations what's expected, what's not expected. and they're going to be used to those situations, and they're not hopefully going to buckle under pressure.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to handle it very well.
Infield-wise, what does Morehead State have?
I think we're going to be really strong in the infield. We've got a lot of great competition in the infield, and with the return of Amber Riddle, she's got a great glove at first. Stephanie Etter played a lot of second last year. Kayla Ashbrook played a lot of short last year. Third base is one of those spots that's kind of we split time at last year. Katie Riley split time there, but she's improved tremendously. And we've got a lot of new players that could factor into the mix. So, I think our infield is going to be pretty strong. And even at the catching spot, Jamie Massaro caught a lot last year. But we have a new player, a new transfer that can come in and help with the catching duties as well. So I think not only do we have some experience, but we have the depth. And there's a lot of competition, friendly competition because of that. And I think it's really pushed the infielders and made them better.
You mentioned Amber Riddle, of course, a hometown girl.
Right.
Set the state record for home runs during her career over at Round County High School, and the fact that maybe not the face, but part of the face of Morehead State softball, because she is a local gal and has had a great career thus far.
Yeah, I would say, when you talk about a face of a program, just with the accolades she got last year, I would say right now she's probably the most well-known player we have. Being all region last year, all conference, all those things, she's definitely put herself in a position to be recognized. But I think the fact that she is hometown girl, kind of hometown hero,
yeah,
I guess you would say, that makes it a little bit more exciting for people in this area because she has the local roots.
I know a couple years ago, telling a little story on Amber, the fact that my daughter played softball Johnson County, about an hour from here, and we came down to play scrimmage Round County and before the All-Star games began, and Amber was out there umpiring games, and it's a fact that those little girls, 8, 9, 10, saw that name out in center field around county, and they knew who she was and the fact that what she had done, and to split time with going out to some youth. That's really what it's all about.
I know, and she's very well recognized in the community. I know you can't walk into the gym over at the high school or go to a softball game or whatever the case may be without somebody asking you how she's doing. And anyone that has a connection to the university or the high school always asks about her.
All right, we got the infield, we got the catching, we got the outfield. Now the most important part.
Pitching.
Tell us a little bit about the pitching.
Pitching-wise, Katie Post, she finished really strong last year. She's come back. She's a more complete pitcher this year. Looks great so far. Kelsey McMurray is a returning pitcher for us. She's really improved as well, and I think she's going to give us some quality innings. And then we have Greta Smons, who's a transfer for us, and she threw, I think, 400 total innings in 2 years combined at the junior college level. So she obviously has the game experience. So when we look at all that, I think that we have a chance to have an experienced pitching staff. But what I really hope is we have a pitching staff that wants the ball in their hands. I want them to have the mentality to have the ball in their hand with the game on the line, and trust that the defense is going to get the job done behind them and the offense is going to score runs for them. I do feel like we have a lot of components this year that we can really rely on. I think if everything comes together with the pitching, the offense, and the defense, everything should be pretty well taken care of.
How much difference is there pitching-wise, like in softball and then in the college game? I know you have a pitch count when you're playing baseball. Early on it's cold and stuff like that. Seems like the softball pitchers can add up some innings in a hurry.
Yeah, it's a different motion on your arm. It doesn't put as much stress on your shoulder. It's definitely different. So you do see pitchers throwing back-to-back days. You even see some pitchers throwing back-to-back games. It is a different mentality. I think it's kind of what each pitcher is able to tolerate. Conditioning plays a really vital factor in that. So the better shape you're in, the more you're going to be able to go. I think the biggest thing with pitching in softball isn't as much your arm; it's getting the tired legs. Baseball.
The push off the
push off that rubber.
Yeah.
In baseball, a lot of times the arm's probably the first thing to get tired. Softball, it's going to be more your legs than anything. So there is a big difference there. There's a big difference there, and that is one of the unique things that separates softball and baseball.
So conditioning for a pitcher, maybe when they come back, a little more running, so they have their legs under them. They probably don't like it,
yeah,
but that's what you have to concentrate on to make sure maybe not as much throwing, but more running.
They do a lot. They do quite a bit of throwing,
Yeah.
but they do quite a bit of running as well. They do a lot more distance than what you would see a position player do.
Yeah.
So the pitchers do quite a bit of cardio work incorporated into their daily pitching workouts, and then have to do the conditioning the rest of the team has to do on top of that. So they have to do quite a bit of conditioning.
Let's talk about your schedule.
Okay.
I think everybody's, when it was 8 degrees, 10 degrees this morning, was kind of envious because in a month you'll be going to Miami, starting that softball campaign. Now, if you need someone to be a bat boy, just holler.
All right, yeah.
Me or Tom Hodges will be a bat boy down in Miami to start the season.
He might have a game to coach. I don't know.
He'd probably take a flight and go down and be a bat boy. But tell us a little bit about that first tournament in Miami.
Well, we open up in the Felsberg Memorial Tournament that Florida International hosts, and a couple really, really strong teams in that. Florida International is a very competitive program. UConn is in that, Big East opponent. So I really think we're going to be tested early. Binghamton also rounds out that tournament along with us. So we're going to get 5 total games in. We'll play a round-robin schedule against the 3 opponents, and then they go into a bracket play. So I think we're going to be tested early, especially with some of those games, Florida International, UConn, those types of things. So looking forward to it. We get a chance to go to a warmer weather climate and really – have a chance to get on a field, get some nice weather. I don't see why we don't get all 5 games in. So it'd be a good way for us to kick off the season and make sure that we get that experience that we need as we lead up to conference play.
After Miami, you go to Wilmington, North Carolina for a tournament, then Johnson City, and down at Campbell, Boys Creek, North Carolina, as we know that with the PFL. So your first home game won't be till March 12th. So 2 things. You'll get a lot of warm weather or warmer climate, and there'll be a lot of meal money there right there on those trips.
That's one of those hassles, having to feed them when you're on the road. But, the schedule was set up. We wanted to play some tournaments, get some games in, and altogether I think we're going to get about 18 games in with the tournaments. Then we have 2 non-conference doubleheaders here the week leading into conference play with Western Illinois and Detroit, which this will be the warmer weather climate for those 2 teams. So altogether, I think we're going to get in 22 non-conference games before we play our first conference game. So hopefully, weather permitting, we get all 22 in, and we should have quite a bit of game experience under our belt before we start our conference slate.
OVC, a very tough softball schedule, and Tennessee Tech even made a coaching switch, last week. So, they've been a traditionally strong team, and, I don't know how that will affect them, but, the OVC is pretty tough.
It is. We are split into divisions this year, and I would say that it's hard to say if one division's tougher than the other, but when you look at Jacksonville State, Tennessee Tech, they're traditionally at the top. Now, we actually fared very well against both of them last year, taking 2 out of 3 from both of them. But, either way, you're always in for a fight when you go to play them. So we're going to be tested right off the bat, 3-game series with Tennessee Tech, and then the next weekend, I believe, is a non-divisional series where we play the doubleheader one day against one school and a doubleheader the next day against another school. And I think those within themselves are going to be challenging as well because you're playing 4 games basically in less than 48 hours. So that's going to be a challenge within itself, and I think you're going to see a lot of strategy come into play with that, with how people approach those weekends.
Of course, February 15th in Miami is the first 2 games of the 2013 softball season for Morehead State. March 12th, Western Illinois, a doubleheader, the first home game, and then March 14th, 16th, and 17th, also at University Field. Hey, good luck. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
to you. You can send us a postcard from Miami.
I will. We'll send you some palm trees.
That'd be great. David Williams, softball coach here at Morehead State University. We'll come back with more. This is the Eagles Sports Coaches Show.